I'll move on now to our second speaker, who is, I'm delighted to say, Rob Fowler, the CEO of Volta Trucks. Difficult to imagine a more exciting startup in the space than Volta Trucks. Rob, extremely pleased to have you involved in this, the first of the EV Summits online series. Again, Rob, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and giving us a bit of a background for those who don't know to Volta Trucks and to the mission of the company.
Sure, thanks Ed, thanks for the opportunity to be here today. So I'm Rob Fowler, I'm the CEO of Volta Trucks. I took over in February, talk about a fantastic piece of timing to take over a startup in the middle of coronavirus, or at the start of it, but been a whirlwind since then. Prior to Volta Trucks, I spent 10 years in logistics for a well-known UK and European carrier called DPD, heavily involved in their electric vehicle commercial EV programs, charging infrastructure, general city centre dynamics, and how actually final mile activity works inside the city centre. Joining Volta Trucks, really great opportunity for me, sort of came from a logistics side where you could see a shortage of supply in the marketplace, and then moving across with an opportunity now to help unlock that supply and increase the number of EVs available for commercial operators. Volta Trucks is building a 16-ton electric vehicle. It's a startup based in Sweden. We have a team spread across Europe with focuses particularly on the London and French markets, or London and Paris markets, but actually also with a plan to scale across most of Europe in the future. Company really has been founded actually around redesigning the entire commercial vehicle concept, around the design of the cab, with actually not just an aim to electrify the vehicle, but to build one of the safest commercial vehicles on the road. Very specific use cases. You're not talking about running 400 or 500 mile trunking routes, talking about city centres where the air quality is poorest, where the safety is the worst, where there's significantly disproportionately high number of accidents involving HGVs and cyclists, and really focusing on where you can have that biggest impact very quickly. So fortunate to join the company in February. We've had a massive customer traction, even through coronavirus, as people come forward to actually looking to deploy our vehicles in the first half of next year.
Thanks so much indeed for that, Rob. Super exciting plans from a super exciting startup. I know technology is a super important part of the Volta Trucks mission. Could you tell us a little bit more about the technology you're investing in and why for Volta technology is so important?
Sure. I think the really interesting thing for me is actually the technology is now becoming readily available to start the electrification process. So the excuses that people have had over the past 5 or 10 years about actually barriers to entry are rapidly being moved away. I think on top of that, there's a much better education piece. People understand the total cost of ownership. They understand that batteries are going to continue to improve with time, therefore their deployment options increases. But actually the technology is really at the heart of it, and so we're looking at the electric drivetrain very differently. We haven't just taken a diesel vehicle and converted it by taking the engine out. That allows us to change the cab position, it allows us to put the batteries where we want them, allows us to bring the driver down to eye level and to put safety and security systems around the vehicle. So actually the technology is not just in the electrification here, it's across the platform of the vehicle, how that vehicle interacts with other vehicles inside the city, how that vehicle talks to its owners, its operators, to really give people both a solution to electrify their fleets, but also to make their operation more efficient and add value for customers in that way. I think really the heart of this is we see significant improvement in the quality of the drivetrains, of the battery provision, of the electrical systems coming forward, which has really enabled us to develop a very high quality product.
Very good. So our poll tells us that the policy framework is in a very interesting place. Heidi has outlined some incredible policy initiatives coming from California. The technology is there. It's a great moment to be investing in electric trucks. Let's move on to investment. Where do you feel the investment landscape lies at the moment for electric trucks? Surely Volta is very well placed to pick up on some interesting new flows of equity into this sector.
Yeah, I think just in general, there seems to be very much a shift in investment strategies around the sustainability proposition, around green tech money coming forwards. And actually, the sort of coronavirus shutdown has just very clearly proven that link between air quality and transportation inside city centres, about bringing investors forward who are very, very interested in this space and perhaps are looking for alternative propositions are coming forwards at this point. I think the other kind of extension of this is that as policy is starting to shift around quite rapidly, and you're starting to see more aggressive regulatory frameworks coming forward from a variety of different locations, actually that mandating of zero emission vehicles is definitely starting to drive a shift in certain marketplaces towards people looking at procuring new types of vehicles.
Very good. So there are lots of questions coming in for you, Rob. I'll come on to those now. There's a question about battery density and weight being an issue for a long time. What's your sense on how quickly that issue is being resolved in the trucks sector?
Yeah, I think there's two bits here, Adrian. We are not building, like I say, a 500-mile HGV solution. So actually, our initial product offering is of a 150 to 200 kilometre window, which we know for urban distribution model is well within the ranges which these vehicles are doing on a daily basis. So that's the first point. We have a modular battery system that can scale if it's needed to. And actually, a lot of our customers are talking to us about volume rather than weight payload being more of an issue. So the objective we had was to build a vehicle which can hold 2 Euro pallets side by side. So effectively, you can double the footprint of Euro pallets. Therefore, actually, more of our conversations are around volume rather than payload. I think the other thing which we know is battery prices are coming down, which makes them scalable. If you look at the Bloomberg numbers going out to 2030, they've already collapsed quite considerably since 2018, and they will continue to do so going forward. But some of the academic research that I'm seeing is showing actually chemical constitution changes in batteries are a very feasible solution as well to improve that mass, weight, and energy density.
Very good. Finally, Rob, there's another question coming here from Jim Gregg, who's asked the question, what's the biggest hurdle driving mass adoption in the electric trucks sector?
For me, there's clearly a supply issue, which we're hoping to fix. I have first-hand experience of trying to electrify a commercial fleet. Actually, one of Volta Trucks' propositions is around actually simplifying the electrification of commercial vehicles. So if you're a large operator and you generally speaking have resource and knowledge, it's very, very easy to go out there and find the right types of provisions to allow for electrification. But actually in a long tail marketplace where there's lots of SMEs running 15 to 25, 30 trucks, where they just don't have that depth of knowledge, one of our service propositions is actually around building the entire electrification piece. So you don't just come with a truck, you come with charging installation, with hardware, with driver training, with maintenance networks, because a lot of service networks are set up for diesel, they're not set up for electric. So actually, we see a challenge around both actually educating people around how the total cost of ownership works, but building a full service provision for an organisation who wants to electrify their fleet.
Thanks very much indeed, Rob. There are a whole bunch of other questions. You've certainly prompted a lot of interest from our audience, so thanks very much indeed for that. Unfortunately, there's not any more time to ask more questions of you for now, but once again, thanks very much indeed, Rob. We'll come back to ask more questions at the end.